Hey everybody, welcome to Grimm's Forge Gaming. Today we are going to cover my MagSorc Storm Atronach. And we'll jump right into the build here. We're running Slime Craw, and we've got two pieces of that, so that way we can get the Minor Berserk, that 8% damage bonus. That's pretty nice. And we are running Twiceborn Star. I'm running 2 heavy and then 5 light. But Twiceborn Star, and we've got the triglyph stats on there on the legs and on the chest. And then the other piece that we are running, the other 5 piece that we are running is the Phoenix. And I've had a lot of success with the Phoenix, and there's a kind of a rhyme or reason why I like running the Phoenix. But that 5 piece on there, when you drop below 25% health, gain a damage shield that absorbs 30,000 damage for 6 seconds and deals 11,200 flame damage to nearby enemies. And so if you cut that shield into half, that shield while you're in PvP, 15k shield, you cut the damage into half, you're still going to be like 6k, 5k damage, flame damage. That's fine. But the most important thing about that set is human error. It gives me an opportunity to correct or to counterplay a burst, or if a Nightblade jumps on me and tries to burst me down, this set will save me sometimes, or prolong my death. But anyways, it's a really fun set to play with on a sorcerer. And if you look at the effect, it occurs once every minute. And so I know that for the next minute, if this procs, I need to get out of dodge, try and create as much separation as I can, and give myself, or give this set, the Phoenix set, a chance to come off cooldown. Um, so anyways, this setup has been working really well for me. I posted a video earlier. It was a really slow start. I apologize for that. I'm standing around with this relic waiting for our team to capture, and I realized that they're not going to capture, and so finally I just said let's go, and so we got 34 kills in that, and it was a really fun game. Probably would have been a 50 kill game if I would have just gone right from the start, but whatever. Anyways, this setup works great in PvP. I've had no problems, both CP and non-CP. Looking at the skills, we're running Crushing Shock. I really like the Crushing Shock because of the bottom one. Enemy hit while casting or interrupted, set off balance and stunned for 3 seconds. And that's important to know because if you think about anything that has a cast time on it, if I can hit them while they're casting it, which this is my primary spammable, so the likelihood that I will hit them with this is pretty high. But anyways, Crushing Shock is my primary spammable, and next ability is Crystal Frags. And I don't use Crystal Frags. If you see me hard casting Crystal Frags, it's purely by accident, and sometimes I just don't stop the cast. I'm like, hell with it, it's already on the way. But most of the time I wait for it to actually proc, and then I'll use the proc to cast it. Um, Haunting Curse is my next ability, so usually when I start a fight with an individual, I'll make sure I get this Haunting Curse on him. I'll try and line up my damage. Haunting Curse and Endless Fury. If we can get those two things on them, then sometimes when this blows up and say they don't have any heals coming in, or they're just resistances are super low, this might take them really far down, and I've already done a rotation on them, and then this triggers and kills them. And you'll see that in the video a lot. Like, I do one heavy attack Crushing Shock combo, maybe throw a Crystal Frag at them, and then Endless Fury, and they just blow up. So if I go through a rotation, get this on them, get that on them, and then go back through and work on them for a little bit, just know that this is going to blow up twice, and if they happen to fall below that 20% threshold, this is going to get them. So I like running Hardening Ward on my offensive bar. It allows for less weapon swapping back and forth. I can just stay on this and be aggressive, And one of the passives from your class ability is when you're using your frags, and it procs often, but when you use it, that you're healed during that time frame. And so just by maintaining this hardened ward and getting frags off, it'll keep you sustained or keep your health up, and so that's been working out really well. Um, I just recently switched to energy overload on my offensive bar, and I'm glad for that. I was running the Destro ultimate on this bar, and when you look at the Destro ultimate, it's just a lot of damage. We're not buffed up right now, but this is a lot of damage, and you can basically set this area down wherever you want. And the problem was the amount of ultimate. When I look at it, it's 212 ultimate, and I set it down, and what's the first thing people do when you set this down? They dodge roll or get out of it. And so I feel like this is really lost. And if I were going to lay down any type of AoE, the AoE that I'd want to lay down is actually my charged Atronach, and summon a mobile storm Atronach at the target location. Its arrival deals 9k shock damage. That buffs when buffed up goes up, and stuns the enemies for 3 seconds. So that immediately makes this more valuable than the Destro ult for me. We're looking at a 212 ultimate cost, and we're looking at 170 ultimate cost. So I can do an 8k, 9k burst damage as soon as it arrives, and then it stuns them and forces them to break free and get out of it. So if they break free and dodge roll, they've just expended a lot of stamina, and then we just got to clean up the mess. So I like energy overload on my offensive bar. The reason I like it on there is because light attacks become lightning bolts, dealing unbuffed 12k shock damage. Heavy attacks does an area of effect, and the important part is right at the top. It says charge your fists with the power of the storm, replacing your light and heavy attacks with new stronger abilities. Each attack restores 1100, 1200 magicka. If I go completely out of magicka, trying to lay into someone, and I'm like in that moment where I'm having to heavy attack just to get some magicka back to do anything, because this is such a low ultimate cost at 21 ultimate, I can probably get 2 or 3 shots of this off, if not more. And so this becomes a viable way to actually get magicka back and still put out an immense amount of damage. And if you watch the videos that I put out, there are times where outnumbered situations and we got to go. It's time to put some serious damage out, and so we'll just hit this and just start firing away. We'll make sure that we hit Haunting Curse, so that way we get that splash damage explosion. We'll hit Endless Fury and then on our targets, and we just start lighting them up. This has been working really well for me. My back bar is a Resto bar, and I use Streak. This is my hard CC. We use Power Surge, and Power Surge is our form of major sorcery, so that way we get that 20% damage buff, and activating a critical causes this ability to heal you. And so the nice thing about that is when that's up, the likelihood that we're going to get a crit is high, especially when your primary spammable is Crushing Shock or the other form of this. It's doing 3 separate damages every single time, and so we have a really good chance of actually hitting crits on people. I like Boundless Storm, and I've been contemplating switching out Boundless Storm. I like that physical resistance that's there. I thought if I ever needed to be more tanky, if I was having serious sustain problems, this is 2300 magicka, and I use it a lot for the major expedition, but the major expedition from this only lasts 4 seconds. So I'd actually thought about picking up the Sigic channeled acceleration, putting that here, and switching out my monster set for something more defensive. And so That way I could get that major or the channeled acceleration, major expedition for like 36 seconds, and that would allow me to be very mobile while moving around the battlefield. Excuse me. Something to think about, anyways. Moving on, Harness Magica is my second shield, and I have my Hardened Ward and my Harness Magica on the same button, same bar, so same button. So that way, if I do have to weapon swap, my number 4 is one shield, and so if they're putting a lot of damage into me, I'll hit my shield here, switch over, hit my shield, and then toss the heal. And it says healing you or a nearby ally is important. I think one of my deaths in one of the videos, I shield stacked, taking a lot of pressure, and I hit my heal, and it throws it to this guy, like 28 yards away. And I'm like at 2k health right now, and he's, at over half health. And I was like, really? Really? Okay, awesome, thank you. But so that talking about that, it might be worth instead of running with that, running with dark conversion, and this will expend stamina, and it does have a 1 second cast time, but it guarantees to heal you, and you get magicka back while you do it. And so if that ends up becoming a theme where this thing has hurt me more than helped me, I'll drop it off my bar, and I'll put dark conversion there, and I'll deal with that cast time to get that guaranteed heal from it. And another thing, this is a lot of health over 5 seconds, 16k, so if it does land on me, that's great, but it's still a hot heal over time, whereas this is kind of a burst heal. And so something to consider. And then we've got that summon charged Atronach. I really like this Atronach because, like we said, it's got some burst damage right on arrival, and it stuns on arrival, and then it's doing the AOE damage. So that's great. This is great when you're playing domination, you're trying to take flags, or if you're getting a lot of pressure, and you have enough ultimate, drop this and then fight right next to your buddy, and he'll take some of the damage too if you kind of use him as line of sight or an LOS. You can actually hide behind him, and so they really have to. You're putting them in a position where they have to decide, how bad do I want to try and get this kill or push the subject. And so most of the time, you drop this and you stand right behind or right next to your buddy, they're not going to come in after you. And if they do, you CC them inside it, and they're just taking a lot of damage, turn and really burn on them. So let's buff up and look at the stats here real quick. Alright, so we got 3k spell damage, and 2100 spell resistance, just under 20k physical resistance, and 35k max magicka, 20k health, and this will go up to 25, almost 26k in PvP, and 25k sorcerers, 26k health sorcerers. That's scary. And we don't lack spell damage. So, and 18k stamina. You'll watch in the videos when there's times where I need to break free and dodge roll to give myself a chance to get my shields up or my heals to do some work. And 18k stamina is really nice on a sorcerer. I find myself dodge rolling a lot with it. It's just my playstyle. Magicka recovery, we're just under 1800. That's nice. Health recovery is 1000, and that's nice. Because we are running Twiceborn Star on this setup, we have our two. Mundus is magic recovery, 253 magic recovery, and we're running spell damage, 253. Here's our minor berserk from our slime craw, and the food that we're using is bewitched sugar skulls. You should get all your class passives for everything, and your Destro, get all those passives, and your Resto. Something to note too. So let's say sustain is an issue on your build, and You could always go the route of adding dark conversion to your build. Instead of shield stacking, maybe drop one of your shields and put dark conversion in. This would be a great form of healing and sustain, and so maybe that's the play for you. Another option is on your front bar you would drop this hardened ward or switch this out. Shield preference, you would switch it out with the harness magicka. Kind of depends on what shield you want, but you would drop elemental drain on there. And the nice thing about elemental drain is you're going to get that minor magicka steal against that target. That's good. That's going to help with sustain for sure. And then you're going to apply major breach for 21 seconds, reducing their spell resistance. There are games where, like right now, we're in a tanky meta with crazy heals. Everybody knows this. This knows that to be true. That it's tank meta, and this is probably the play. If you get into a BG and you realize everybody is super strong, like it's just a bunch of tanks trying to kill each other and trying to kill me, you might want to drop one of your shields and put on elemental drain, so that way you get the major breach. That's going to help a little bit. I had a game earlier today, and I actually just put it up, and it says MagSorc Slugfest. So watch that. I died 2 times right off the bat, and it's a bunch of super tanky guys, and it was only after the game was over. I went on to get like 16 kills after that, so I went 16-2 in that game, but it was one of the most knockdown, drag out BGs. It was absolute chaos. And after the game's over, I thought, man, I should have dropped one of my shields and I should have put that on there. It would have helped with sustain, and it would have helped me burn some of these tanky dudes down. So, anyways, that's probably the play if you run into resource problems and you want to debuff the target. So, most of the time, this build puts out so much burst that I don't need to run that. Like, they're just simply not going to be there anyways. So, and sustain can be an issue, but once you learn how to use this right, you can just toggle this on, throw out a couple of those, especially when you want to put some pressure into somebody, and watch what your magicka does. It'll feel right back up. And my playstyle is wind up a heavy attack, and just as I'm ready to let loose the heavy attack, I animation cancel it with a crushing shock, and that's why on the video you'll see like several damage things hitting all at once. And if you were to time that heavy attack with the crushing shock as this explodes, you might see several. You'll see your heavy attack, your weapon enchant, your three crushing shock abilities hit. So you're seeing 5 abilities hit. This explodes. That makes 6 abilities, and then you see this proc, and there's 7, and it's just bang. The screen fills up, and they're deleted. And that's how you kind of your line up your burst on people. So for the newer sorcerers out there, that's been working really well for me. Armor set wise, because we are running too heavy, make sure you get all your light, and then as far as heavy, you're only going to need the first 3. And just kind of going through, you don't really need the Mage's Guild or anything like that unless you're running Meteor. I rarely run dungeons on this guy, and I haven't done much of the Mage's Guild. Meteor's a great thing at 170 cost, and it hits super hard. The real thing that I see out of this is before this starts scaling up, it might be a 20k by the time you level it up and then morph it or whatever, but for as cheap of a cost as this is, and the tooltip right now is at 12. Before this scales, this starts scaling up as you level it up, and it might hit 20. But this cost is so little, I'd rather just throw 2 of these, and they're instant. 2 light attacks instantaneously at somebody, and do the same amount of damage, and get magicka back. But if you really want to line up some nasty burst, um, you'll want to toss a meteor on somebody, then streak through them, and you'll see your haunting curse, your endless fury, your meteor hit, and just everything explode. And that's a really good play to make. Um, Other than that, race, we are high elf, and you get additional spell damage for the high elf. You get max magicka, and you get some sustain out of it, and that's pretty nice. Let's go look at our CP. All right, I set myself up for a soft cap. This is just my own personal soft cap of 60. I don't normally like to go over 60 because of diminishing returns. And we got 60 into Elfborn, so we're doing just under 21% additional crit damage and crit heals. 60 into Elemental Expert, so that way our crushing shock is all three elements when it hits, and so Elemental Expert directly benefits our crushing shock combo, so that's really nice. I could probably afford to put more into spell erosion, and I might look into that if I have more games like I did earlier today. That slugfest video. We know there's a bunch of takey people out there, and honestly, I probably really do need to do this or start running spinners. And if I were to run spinners, I would probably get rid of my Phoenix set and put spinners in there. I would lose that 5-piece bonus for Phoenix, and it saved me a lot. You'll see it save me in the videos, or at least prolong my death. If you've never run Phoenix before, definitely give it a go. The Atronach, I've got 6 into Staff Expert, and that's because we do a heavy attack rotation, heavy attack crushing shock combo as our opener. You'll see me do that a lot, and we want to make sure, if you look there, almost 30%, 29% additional damage on our light and heavy attacks. That's also important because if you look at it as well as your overload, so my overload is hitting 30% harder with that. If you want to have a build that lives and dies off of overload, there is a set that also increases your light and heavy attacks by 20%. The Elegant set. And so if you want to run an overload that really hits hard, I would probably run Twiceborn Star and Elegant, or Spinner and Elegant. I'm really a fan of Twiceborn Star. It fits my playstyle. Master at Arms, we got 20 in there, or 60, sorry, and it puts us at just under 21%. Almost all of our damage is direct damage. I don't have any damage over time, and pretty much in the game, anything that's going to one-shot you is almost guaranteed to be a direct damage. So Master at Arms. I have a little bit into Thaumaturge. I'm probably going to take that out almost completely. So we'll take that 30 and we're going to move it. I'll probably do that right after the video. Boom. We're going to drop that in Spell Erosion. And nothing there. Ironclad. Reduce the damage you take from direct damage. We just talked about it. All of the biggest hitting abilities in the game are going to be direct damage for the most part. Some are area of effect and direct damage. And so Ironclad's going to help with that. I have 50 into Spell Shield, so my spell resistance is boosted up, and I have 40 into Light Armor Focus, so that way my physical resistance is boosted up. That's why my resistances look pretty good. I think it was like 24,000 and then 20,000, and that's not too shabby on a sorcerer. Um, if you watch the video that I put out today that says Slugfest, I'm in the mix and taking a lot of pressure. And if I didn't have the resistances or the health that I had, or the Phoenix set, it would have been an even harder game. And like I said, I started out, you know, 0 and 2 deaths right off the bat, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be a tough one. But we're going to keep recording. So quick recovery. That's why my health recovery is at 1,000. Nope, sorry. Quick recovery, that's healing received. And Bastion, our damage shields are 21% better. And Siphoner, so when you deal damage with your light and heavy attacks, which we do often, it's going to affect their resources and recovery by 12%. Warlord, we've got 60. You are going to have to break free. You're going to get CC'd, so you might as well cut that cost on there. 50 into Mooncalf, so that way some of our stamina is coming back because I'm a dodge rolling machine on my sorcerer. I do dodge roll often. You'll see that in the videos. while I'm getting my buffs back up and trying to avoid damage and trying to be a ninja. And Arcanist, we've got 60 into that. And Tenacity, we've got 20 into that. I might put a little bit more into that. I'm not sure just yet. This is the health recovery. I've got 2.9% for 10 points in there. If I move the 10 up to there, what's that going to look like on Tenacity? It might help with my sustain, and so we might actually do that. We'll see. I could definitely afford to put more into tumbling. I need to fix this, and we don't block hardly at all. So I would take that, put it over in tumbling, and maybe we leave tenacity like that, and we move this 10 over to there. Tumbling for me fits my playstyle. You kind of have to ask yourself what your playstyle is. And so we looked at food, we looked at Mundus, we looked at the abilities, and we buff up. Again, we'll look at this real quick. 3,000, 32, 21, 19. Crit resistance is a little bit lower, but we shield stack. So I really like where this build sits. 25, 26k health is great for PvP for me. And that is the build, everyone. Thank you.